Welcome to Cross-Platform Podcast, where we discuss how to solve productivity problems across platforms. I'm Augusto Pinaud,
And I'm Mark Gelwicks.
and today we're talking about food for thought. What did you eat to be more effective, to be able to stay your stamina? And this now may be, we're starting to show that white hair on the goatee and the beard. And I don't remember worrying about food for thought at 18. Okay, pizza will work. Okay, if you
Mhm.
give me now a pizza for lunch, that's the end of my day, sadly. Okay, but still, it's a very interesting conversation in the case of those who have worked into change and evolve what we eat and how we eat, etc. So, so what? So, what do you? What inspire?
So
Go.
I'll jump in here on this. And first, before we get started, just a little disclaimer: neither Augusto nor I have any medical background. Nothing that we talk about today should be considered medical advice or should be considered a recommendation for you to go off and try and do something without talking to somebody who is a licensed or
Licensed
certified
doctor.
medical professional. So that said, what possessed me to dig into this topic? It's one of those topics that shows up all the time in your news feeds. You always see like a lifestyle article about, what do you do about the 3 p.m. slump, and how do you, is caffeine good for you, and all of these different things cycle. And it made me think a little bit about the fact that this is a constant ongoing question. And you did bring up a very good point. As the years tick by, you become more and more aware of the impacts of fuel and environment on just your ability to operate on a daily basis. But you can see, if you look carefully, the impact on your own productivity that diet can have. And I
Mhm.
don't mean just full-time diet. I don't want this to feel like a life change type of discussion. It's more the, what do you do, and me, what do I do during the course of a day when I start to recognize things aren't working right? Things are going off the rails. And are there things that we do consistently that we have found work for us? And I'll happily start with example from today. I could tell partway through today that I was having some sort of like a tension headache or something like that. For me, it's usually just, the skin on the top of my head feels tight, that kind of a headache building. And I realized at that point that I hadn't eaten enough during the course of the morning. I had shifted what I ate this morning. And whether or not that was actually tied to it, I don't know. But I do know that you're sideways again. Um, Augusto's sliding downhill for those anybody watching.
I don't
Uh,
know why is happening.
so having certain things in your pantry, for lack of a better term, to help you get over these kinds of challenges, I think is really important. So like I was saying, for me, I could tell that tension headache was building, so I needed to get something in my system. So I ate some lunch. And then immediately afterwards, I felt that crash, that afternoon crash. And I knew that I had solved one problem and created another one. So let's start it this way. When you start your day, how do you start from an Augusto fuel standpoint?
So, well, I can answer that, and I'm very bad at that. But I think I should start much early than that because there are things that are going to come into that discussion that are going to put me, maybe not as the average person. That is important to share early in the game. So the first thing is in 15 years ago, okay, I was 400 pounds, okay, and that make a difference, okay, when So I started the journey. I started the journey 15 years ago. At that time, I could, okay, eat pizza and run, okay, round the clock. I cannot do that anymore, but I was able to do that. So I start the journey not looking really to energy and stamina. No, no, no. I was looking for help. I went for my first doctor appointment ever as an adult. Okay, and basically the guy told me you're a heart attack waiting to happen. Okay, my blood pressure was incredibly high, and every other number later on was identified as way out of any range. Okay, not we're not talking about healthy range. We're talking any range. So my journey start differently than how the journey start for many people. My journey start that way. I was 400 pounds. I am today 176. Okay, so there is a massive difference. So there is a lot of education that has come in the process. There is a lot of things that I pay attention, and I still want to lose some weight. I'm just looking now into more. I finally reached the point where I'm looking into that vitality, that energy,
Hmm.
other things. So that's it. I don't do breakfast. Okay, my breakfast is coffee. I wake up very early and drink coffee until around 11:30 or noon, and then at that time I go for lunch. Okay, I am one of those people who don't get affected by caffeine, uh, or who have consumed so much caffeine that the caffeine doesn't do anything else. So I can drink a lot of coffee. I drink coffee black and without sugar. So that at least mitigates some of the bad things on the sugar and the milk. I do lunch as close as humanly possible to noon, and then I do lunch normally around 6 p.m. And after that, I don't eat until the next day. In the more modern times, that is, uh, it's been called, fasting. At the
Hmm.
time I started doing that, that was not considered healthy or anything. It was just the way it works for me. Um, so that's, I wanted to put the background before I answer your question, because it's different.
Yeah, and I'm glad you shared that background because it is really important for people to understand the journey that you've been on, and where you've gotten. And congratulations on that. That's just absolutely amazing. I mean, I can say jokingly, you are half the man you were.
I
Um,
joke that many times. Yes,
so, so
I'm
that's
half the
just,
man I
I'm
used
a
to be.
little annoyed that you went past me, but that's okay. I can live with that. So, but it's an interesting education that you must have gone through. Not only externally, but also a self awareness as you physiologically changed and as time progressed, how all those pieces came to play. So that's fascinating. No
Well,
breakfast, huh?
there are no breakfast, so there are things that you. I've been very lucky that when I talked to that doctor, he told me don't do exercise, and he told me if you think you can change this, the answer is no. 99% of the world will fail. If you want to be part of that 1%, you need to make a 10-year plan. And I was looking at that guy like, you're insane. You're telling me I'm going to, I'm a heart attack waiting to happen. You give me 10 years. But 15 years into this journey, I understood now what he said is, is to learn what to eat, what not to eat, and continue that adjusting, but also more importantly, discover what triggers you. So, for example, and I mentioned pizza. I love pizza. Okay. And pizza is a no
Me
no.
too.
And it's okay. And I need to be very careful because pizza is one of those things that I eat for comfort. So if I'm stressed, my brain says pizza. If I'm having a difficult, whatever, pizza.
Hmm.
So when I, oh, let's have pizza, that's now a learned criteria of push the brake. Why? Okay. And sometimes I eat it when the condition is not stress, anxiety, or any of those
Mm-hmm.
things. Okay. Why? Because if I eat pizza on, I just craving pizza, one pizza, whatever, I can eat a little bit of pizza and be fine. If I
Mm-hmm.
do it in a moment of high emotions, I cannot control myself that easily. Therefore, I try to avoid it. Sweets, for example, it's another one that for me was very difficult to make peace with that. And what I came was with a scale of sweets. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And there are sweets that I say yes, period. Okay. But you need to feed that scale. So, for example, I love ice cream. Okay. And it's not about I don't eat ice cream. I do not eat certain brands of ice cream.
Okay.
Okay, why? Because when you get certain brands of ice cream, it's not good. Okay, you eat it because your mind is I have a, as I said in Spanish, a gordito brain. Okay, a fat man brain. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't eat it because it's good ice cream. You eat it because it's ice cream. So what I have learned is to make that distinction. Don't cut the sweets, cut the bad ones. For example, I don't eat cake. Okay, why? Because cake don't make it into that scale. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
I did a cake and I eat a good ice cream. Okay, I eat a Haagen-Dazs ice cream, for example. Okay, and I end up happy. Okay, I eat bad ice
Okay.
cream and it's like, nah. Then anything that is nah, okay, I scratch it out of the list. I don't need to do it again. Okay, and examples like that, cake, churros, okay, things like that, that I have learned that they don't produce the satisfaction. If you don't produce a certain level of satisfaction as sweet, you're out. And that allows that completely made up scale had allowed me to put a lot of food into that scale. Okay. And then there is a lot of things, for example, rice. Okay. I don't
Mm-hmm.
eat normal rice. Okay. And it's very, very little what I eat on rice. Okay? Why? Again, on that made up scale, rice doesn't produce satisfaction, but it raises my blood sugar. Then it doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when I eat rice, need to be on a very particular thing. And what is interesting is when you take certain elements out of your diet, some other elements fall apart by themselves. So, for example, Indian food, okay? Indian food is delicious, okay? But rice is apart because many of their dishes are sauces, okay? You want the sauce in the rice. The moment you take the rice out, then it's not as fun to go for Indian food, okay? But also, you don't get the calories either, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you get that. And then the moment you say, you know what, today I really want Indian food, then that day you splurge and then get the rice, get the sauce, and get everything. But that allows me to create a much easier and balanced consumption of food on the day to day.
Okay. Yeah, it's excuse me, it's interesting that you're talking about the rice component because my wife cooks a lot of Korean food, and so I get a lot of that. I get rice with it, a lot of veggies, a lot of things like that. I'm one that sweets has always been a downfall. I love sugar, always have. Um, I'm the
And
kind
always
that as a
will, by the way.
oh yeah, oh yeah, I will never deny myself that. I may temper it, I may change it, but I will never deny myself. And just to be clear, none of this is about denying yourself things. It's because I think that can be just as damaging to your productivity. And just to keep this focused around productivity, if you are denying yourself something, you will continue to think about that thing. Well, if you're thinking about that thing, you're not thinking about the things you need to do.
Correct.
Um, so yes, I do like my sweets. I have tempered the amount of chocolate that I used to eat. I love chocolate.
Raise the
That's
bar.
just kind of me.
Right? Chocolate is an
I
interesting thing because I love
good
chocolate.
German chocolates.
Okay.
There you go.
And what happened is that I raised the bar of chocolate. Okay. So
Hmm.
if you give me, for example, I used to eat Snickers. Okay. A lot of
Hmm.
them. Okay. Now, when I start buying better chocolate, okay, and I'm not saying a sneaker is bad, I'm just saying there are better chocolates than sneakers,
Right.
okay? When I start raising the bar, okay, and you start eating better chocolate and you get, Twix or a Snickers or, or a Hershey's, you taste the difference.
Oh yeah.
Then now you can go back to that made up scale of values and say, okay, do I prefer to have X kind of chocolate or
Hmm.
this kind of chocolate? And now, if I crave chocolate, then I go and find that higher on the scale. Okay. But
Hmm.
then that also means that all of them that are not, so for example, when you pass on the groceries here in the States and you pass through the exit, I don't need to grab any of those candies. None of them will
Hmm.
meet the criteria anymore. But I don't feel the craving. I don't feel, if I crave right now Sneakers, I will go and buy one. Okay, and then I will remember, oh yeah, this is the reason I stop having those and I start having this other kind. And that is fine. And that was how I worked for many years in understanding and putting in this made up scale the different kind of food that I eat and trying to figure it out, what I don't care for. Okay. And as you said, my goal was never to, oh, well, I love X and I will not have it. No, no, no. That was never my goal. My goal was to figure it out what I don't care for. And there is a lot of food that you don't care
Hmm.
for. You eat it and you most likely overeat it because it's there. The
Yeah.
moment you quantify that, it changed. Because now you are having, oh, well, I'm going to have this food, who is a one in my scale of five. Well,
Hmm.
can I instead go for a three or maybe for a five? Okay. The moment you do that, you are not saying, oh, well, I will not eat fried chicken. You are saying, I can have this other meal that is better. And then stop being a craving,
Yeah.
or at least has been for me.
Yeah. I find during the work day, I am a grazer. I tend to be that across the board. I find myself most effective when I don't have a targeted meal
Mhm.
midday. If I am eating little bits all through the course of the day, that keeps me much more level, keeps me much more even. I avoid that what can be a just precipitous drop around 2:30 in the afternoon just knocks me flat. Um, and then I have the upswing after that, and all of a sudden, evening's great. So, from a food standpoint, uh, carbs are my favorite thing at times, and they are the worst possible thing for me to eat at times if I'm trying to avoid that. Um, as you mentioned, the pizza thing, I
Mhm.
love pizza, I love burgers and stuff like that. All of that, it tastes good, but it's the carbohydrate drawdown. So
Right.
so when I go through that situation, when I'm sitting there and I get it a lot, I'll be going through. It's like I'm distracted. Why am I distracted? I'm distracted because I'm hungry. Am I actually hungry, or am I hungry because I'm distracted? Is it is it that I'm looking to be distracted, therefore I'm considering myself hungry? And that's why I keep a lot of little hard candies sitting around, um, because the hard candies have a very low, at least a lot of them that I have a low glycemic index. They they occupy me without having a volume to them, which is usually just enough to keep the ball rolling. And actually, I find I get these Asian coffee candies, which are great. So it tastes exactly like a cup of coffee, but there isn't the sugar of
Oh,
the cup of coffee. There isn't
show
the
it in the
volume.
camera. I want to see what it is. You did not show it in the camera.
This is a brand called Copico. Copico.
Okay. Ooh.
This is a cappuccino one. They have dark ones. They have light ones. Per candy, 35. Or no, I'm sorry, two candies, 35 calories.
Oh, that's
But
very
yeah,
good.
it tastes exactly like. Yeah, I'm not worried about counting the calories. Um,
Me
but it
neither.
tastes exactly like a cup of coffee. And it's one of those kinds of things where you can just pop it in and you can occupy yourself and you're not sitting there and eating a volume of things. Um, I also, I try to, matter of fact, after we're done this, I have to run to the store because I'm out of them. Um, cheese sticks, cheese cubes, meat sticks,
Hmm.
those protein things. And this is one of the things when you start to, if you dig into this, you do, search the Google machine, you'll see all the articles that talk about basically the same things. Eat the proteins, cut the carbs back. And while from a dietary thing, I get that. From an energy standpoint, I've found that's when it actually makes a difference for me. I'm not concerned about the dietary part as much as the can I hold an even energy level? Is eating two hot dogs for lunch with
Right.
rolls going to knock me flat? Yeah, it will. And I have to be prepared for that. Can I brace for that? Or can I just grab a couple little snacks and keep going? Do I need the volume? And that's one of the things I think, and this is where I want to get into some of your other experience tracking this using technology, using observation, using journaling, using whatever, I have found personally to be extremely helpful in getting a better understanding as to how biomechanically I function. Now, I don't have anything besides my smartwatch, but I do use that to track things like my stress level. If I feel off, I'll go through and check my heart rate, check my blood oxygen level, check my stress level, and see is there something that is standing out. And if all those are good, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I just need a cheese stick. and
Right.
and
And
and that might be the thing.
right. For me was a checklist. Okay. That's how it started. Okay. I create this unofficial, scale and put the things because you don't necessarily, there are things that you don't eat often that you may remember. Okay. Why I don't eat cake? Okay. No, let me have this cake. No, no, it's not that cake. It's cake. Okay. You don't eat cake because you don't care for cake. And as soon as you document it, then it was like next time you're like, you check. Oh, yeah, that's why I don't like cake. Okay. Because it doesn't give me anything. Great. More recently, in 2023, I've been taking now this to the next level, and I add a continuous glucose monitor. Okay,
Okay.
on the last blood test, or the one before, the sugar came high, not high enough to be diabetic, but high enough to be what is called pre-diabetic. Okay, and so I wanted to understand what it was. Okay, I was not willing to uh, do it. Okay, I'm fine doing every 15 days, once and push it, but I am
Hmm.
not going to be cutting and measuring. That's not going to happen. So I tried the technology options, didn't find anyone that could really measure accurately. And then I found
Hmm.
this glucose monitor. Basically, once every 15 days, you put it in your arm, and the next 15 days, you change it to the other arm. And it's measuring your glucose level 24/7. The first thing I'm going to say is how high my sugar was. Okay. From the perspective of concern of the doctor versus what I saw the numbers. Okay. For the doctor wasn't that concerned. Okay, when I saw the numbers, say, "What do you mean we're not concerned? I'm in the top percentile before I get out of range. That's
Hmm.
to be concerned." Okay, I'm young enough to not be there. The second thing that is very cool with this is my scale of values. Okay, was my scale of values. Okay, whatever. There was really my decision. Now there is food that I've been evaluate in a completely different way. Okay, for
Okay.
example, bread. Yeah, I love bread. I love a sandwich. Okay, and but what I went was okay. I cannot eat a baguette. Okay, because the baguette will take the sugar and get me into a sugar rush. Great. Is there any bread in the market that I can buy that will not produce, you know, a
Hmm.
rocket launch? And I found it. Okay. So when I'm craving a sandwich, I made it with that bread. Yeah, the sugar goes up. It's not that it doesn't. Okay, as somebody told me, every time you eat, sugar should go up. The question is how long it stay up and how long it takes to come back to normal.
Now, when you say you found it, how did you find it?
Oh, there is a brand called Ezekiel.
Right. But
ECE. Oh, I
was this a
tried.
research
It
process?
was a
Was it a trial
research
and
project.
error?
I
Or
bought trial and error. I bought
okay.
a bunch of different brands, start going from the supermarket baguette to frozen baguette to different kind of breads until I found this one. This bread in particular is normally on the frozen section. Okay, and
Hmm.
that was a good indicative. Okay, the first one I bought, I leave it outside as you do normally with sliced bread. Okay, and it was much, completely ruined in 3 days. And I was like, okay, there is something different in this, because if you buy a sandwich bread, that thing can
Hmm.
stay outside for a very long time.
Yeah.
This one cannot. Okay, and you need to buy it and leave it in the keep it in the fridge. So obviously it has less things, and yes, it raises the sugar, but it doesn't raise it as bad and as long as other breads. So I just adjust that way. Okay, sticky rice. Okay, for example, I love sticky rice. My son loves sticky rice, and I need to be very careful. Okay, because a
Mhm.
sticky rice, it's again another rocket. Okay, so but I will still eat a sticky rice. But now that you have that data and you can get that feedback that quick, then the portions have come significantly down. So instead
Mhm.
of being, rice with, now is with and a little bit of rice. So you
Okay.
get the taste of the rice, you get that, but you don't get all that. For people who love data, that is struggling, that continue monitor has been a game changer for me because it's the same thing as what you are describing. Okay. There are many times that at the beginning, especially, that I feel that and I went and do exactly what you do. Oxygen, the
Mhm.
sugar. Ah, look, this is what it means. So I can tell you without looking at the thing now when the sugar is going to a certain level and when it's going on the way down to a certain
Mhm.
level because my body feels it. Okay, when my sugar is coming down 160 and below, okay, that change between 160 and 140, I feel it. I know that it is. Interestingly enough, that will be the kind of feelings, okay, in which I will have grabbed a chocolate or a coffee or
Mhm.
sugar or, and raise it up again. Okay. Now I know that because I have the data. Before I didn't. So there is a lot of things now that I can identify. No, no, this is not hungry. This is something else. What it is, I don't have the education to tell you exactly what it is, but I have the data, and then I have been able to figure it out that behavior.
Yeah, and that data, that monitoring tool is really it's really compelling, it's really powerful. It's interesting to see how many technology companies are now looking at parallel styles of tools because I know that that particular thing that you're talking about does require, at least here in the States, a prescription to be able to get
Yeah,
um, things that would be equivalent over the counter smartwatches, Aura rings, that sort, that could potentially help you measure that type of thing. I think it goes beyond just the measure. It's the measure and the tracking and your input in that process. It's
mm-hmm.
your observation. The system can tell you when your glycemic or your blood sugar has dropped um, it when it's building up, but it's well, how did I get to that point? And what is causing that and what is the effect I should expect from that? That's part of your self observation and analysis that has to happen.
Correct. And the tool is same in productivity. Okay, the tool doesn't
Hmm.
matter which tool you use. The tool will not make the change. You need to make the change and use the tool accordingly. This thing is the same. This thing will give me a number, okay? And it's now me to look what that number means and what I want to do about that number, okay? And um, and comes back to also how you react to that. As I said, I'm not, I don't want the number to say, okay, I will not have, sticky rice ever again. No, 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 no. I love sticky rice. Okay. And I love it. And with certain meals, that is the appropriate condiment. Okay. What I want to make sure is I am not using it all the time, where now my sugar goes so high that will produce negative effects in the future.
Hmm.
That's what I want to figure it out. What I want to figure it out is, hey, if I eat French fries, okay, fine. But do I really need to eat the supersize thing of the French fries? Okay. Or can I eat and
I
share
feel
a fries?
attacked. Yeah.
No, but you know what is very interesting?
Hmm.
When you start looking, you eat the super
Hmm.
size, okay, and then now 20 minutes later you start feeling all the potatoes
Oh yeah.
digesting on your brain, okay, and the blood not on your brain, and you look at the number and the number is super high, and now
Hmm.
okay, again, you have the data, you can go and order another one of those, okay, but it's interesting, at least it's been interesting for me. There is a line, okay,
Hmm.
and the line has nothing to do with the statistics. I think it's a personal line, and you feel it when your blood past that going up, and you feel it when it's coming down, okay, and those 2 points are very interesting because both, at least for me, make me crave more of what is going to raise the sugar.
Yes. Yeah. Physiologically, I get that. I've seen that and talked about in articles too, how you'll have something and it actually drives you to consume more of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, I don't recall what the trigger is that does that, but you're absolutely right. That's one of those things that becomes that slippery slope. And being able to go through and say, here's where I think the challenge comes from the productivity standpoint. We have been taught over the years to power through things. If you're tired in the afternoon, power through it. Get a cup of coffee, drive through it, do that kind of thing, rather than being cognizant of how we get to certain points, what's
Mm-hmm.
triggering certain things, and when to use that to our advantage, when to plan around it. I have learned very actively that that time period from like 2 to roughly 3:30 is a rough time for me during the afternoon. I can have a pretty good shot of things slowing down for me. So that's the time period that I have to allocate for things like, administrative tasks and, maintenance and clean up office and things like that. Things that don't require a lot of gray matter functionality. Um, Offsetting that though, the evening can is a creative time for me. Highly creative time. I do much better at that during the time period, which is kind of weird because it's usually after dinner. So I'm not sure what that tie-in is, and I'm sure there's other factors such as sleep and that sort of. But the important thing that I'm trying to get to is being aware of it, knowing that pothole in the road is coming is as important as driving over the pothole because then
Right.
you can drive around it. You don't actually have to hit it. So,
And that's exactly what that data has created for me. For me, has given me the opportunity to know there is a pothole coming, how I'm going to react. And you know, I and I need to say this, because I said at the beginning of the show, I was 400 pounds. So no, I never thought of food as energy, fuel. Okay, food was something you enjoy. Okay, and as my wife said once to me, the problem is food is the response to everything. Okay, mad, happy, sad, celebration, burn, the
uh,
stress, pick it up. I go for food. And I still do. Okay, let me clarify. As you said, I will always like chocolate. Yeah, I will always like food. Okay,
mhm,
what has changed, okay, in the relationship with, it's not that I don't think about food. No, no, no. I still think about
mhm,
food. Okay, and today, okay, my daughter got sick 2 days ago. Okay, today was still shit. Okay, and my response is, well, you need to eat this kind of dinner.
mhm,
Okay, So it's not that that thing has changed. What has changed is I am not unconscious anymore about what I consume. See how I didn't say I don't consume stuff? No, no. Everything is fair game. Okay. But I'm conscious about what is the reaction and if the reaction is going to be appropriate. Like you said in productivity, okay, if you need to make an important decision, okay, or you need to talk to a new client and it's a very important meeting, 1:30 may not be a good time for that meeting.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
it is the same thing. When now comes to the food, okay, I will enjoy it after, but the pre
Hmm.
planning of that, it's a very conscious process.
Absolutely. And it's interesting that you bring that up because if I'm engaged with other people, it's not as much of a problem. But if I'm on my own doing something, it's a huge issue.
Mhm.
Or worst case, if I was on conference calls, so it's like,
Well,
nodding off here.
and that is something that for example, I when I was a kid, I have always been a big reader. Okay, and I fight with my mother for God knows how many years, probably until I move out. Okay, because I wanted to sit on the table and read. Okay, come on, I was combining my two love. Okay, eating and reading. It was fantastic,
Hmm.
and my mother never let me read in the table. Okay, so it was always a fight. And when obviously when I move out, okay, I begin reading in the table a lot more. And one of the things I learned is I can't or I should not. And the reason is if I lose the attention to the food I'm consuming, I
Hmm.
tend to overeat every time.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. If
I can
I
see that.
focus on the meal, okay, fine. Okay, I eat and I'm conscious. Okay, I eat. That supposed reaction that your stomach sent to your brain and say, "Hey, I'm good." Okay, if I'm distracted, I don't hear it. I don't listen to it, or I don't receive it. I don't know which one it is. Okay, but then what happened is I will overeat every time. So I need to be very, very, very conscious that make me going in meetings for lunch very challenging.
So I have two questions for you here. One, throughout this process, have you discovered a food that not only you really, really like, but also helps you with this? And the second question is, what is your secret weapon food? What is the one food, no matter how strange it is, that you know that if things are starting to go off the rails, your energy levels are getting weird, whatever, you can go and hit this thing and all of a sudden you're back to where you should be, or you know that you're going to be okay. And I'll give
Cheese.
you a
I'm a big
okay,
cheese eater. So cheese is
okay.
mine. For the second question is cheese, no question about it. And
Cheese is your
I
secret weapon. All right.
cheese is my secret weapon. Okay, and it doesn't matter the kind of cheese. Okay, it works. For and it's a and I don't and I even over the years have removed the need for the bread or the cracker. You
Hmm.
know, I can have the cheese and just the
Hmm.
cheese and be completely fine. So what is yours?
Well, my secret weapon food are sardines.
Ooh.
A can of sardines. Now here's why, and people are going to go, oh my goodness. No, I like a good can of sardines in oil, sunflower oil,
Mhm.
and here's why: because it's loaded with protein, it's loaded with omega 3. The oil is a good fat for energy. The size is just right. One
Mhm.
can, perfect, and they'll last basically forever in the closet. So
Right.
I will go and I'll buy a bunch of them and I'll stick them in the closet. And when I get to that point, I'll go through the day. It's like you hit that point and you open the refrigerator, it's like nothing is interesting. Or you know you're about to eat that cinnamon roll that's sitting on the counter that you better not eat for lunch. It's like, nope, you know what? And I grab the can, and I absolutely love them. And I'm particular about it too. There's certain ones. It's like you got to get good
Yeah.
ones. You can't get iffy ones. So that's like my secret weapon one. The the food that I've discovered that really works well for me and that I love is a soup my wife makes. She makes a dried pollock soup, which is basically it's a fish soup. That is just spectacular. It has a broth that I could just bathe in. But that's the type of thing that when you think about most soups have a heavier broth to them, or they're like a vegetable stew or something like that. That's a lot of weight. This is clean. This is smooth and clear. And it's just one of those that I find that just opens the brain up every time I have it. I don't get it often enough. I encourage it as often as I can. Um, but it's one of those things that going through that exercise, I would not have recognized the fact that I get a benefit from that. And there's just something about the chemistry and and the wizardry within that little soup pot. But I think we need to do that. We need to make a conscious effort of keeping
Mhm.
track of the things that we're eating and doing things like you'll see this in a lot of the articles. Um, Making sure you have things on hand that don't require prep, that aren't heavily processed, are the kinds of things that you can grab and snack and move on. Because you
Well,
get a lot of drive of don't snack, don't snack. Well, that's not how
right.
we're built.
Not only that, as I tell people, don't go black from black to white. It's okay. Now I don't need
Hmm.
any more. No, 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 no. Replace one. Figure out which one can be replaced. Okay? I'm
Yes.
sure there is one that you don't care that much. You have it, yet you have eaten it's your kid, but yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can go with that. That's the one to start. Okay, and then you go and continue base it on that scale, because when you do it that way, then you're never really doing, you never feel bad. You're never like, oh well, now I take all this away. No, you never did that, because it was, you are always having something still.
Yeah, and we're not talking about, just to be clear, we're not talking about again the deprivation of it.
Nope.
It's putting the right fuel in the tank at the right times. And sometimes putting that now it's like Augusto's moved down to so his keyboard's in front. It's
It's
like something out of 2001: A Space Odyssey. Um, just the I'm waiting for the obelisk to show up.
that's what happened
Um,
when you are not in your office, and the machine suddenly say you're going to run out of battery, and then
there you
you need
go.
to flip everything.
Um, but having the right things for fuel at the right time. So, for example, if I'm going to be working outside all day on a Saturday, I'm loading up on breakfast. I know I'm probably not going to eat
Mhm.
much of a lunch, but I am loading up on breakfast because I know I'm going to burn through it. Physical activity, I'm going
Well,
to burn through it.
and that's a great, for example, I that's something that I have learned. Okay, and I'm now the guy who brings his sandwich to certain places. Okay,
Hmm.
because I may be doing volunteer work. Okay, and yes, are they going to bring food? Yes. Do I, and I'm coming back to that scale. Okay, if I come into that place, okay, and are they going to have something that it is on that scale that I really want to eat, or it's going to be on the size that I don't care?
Hmm.
If it's on the size that I don't care, then let me bring something that I care. And it's very, very easy for me today accomplish that, and even try new things. Okay, I try still trying things, but it's in that. Where are you in that scale? 1 to 5. If you're a 1, 2, I can do without you for the
Hmm.
rest of my life, probably. Okay. 3, I will continue trying to give you a chance. 4, okay. 5, I will not. 5, there is no discussions. For
Hmm.
example, there is something that I love called, it's a Spanish sausage called chistorra. Okay.
Hmm.
That's a 5 in my list. Okay. I will always pick that thing. Oh, okay. It's great? No. Okay. It is the best food that you can have? No. But it is a 5. Okay. Take me to a Thai restaurant. Okay. And if they have dog, I will get dog. Is the best food? No. Okay.
Hmm.
But Again, it's a five. If it's well done, it's a five. So that's what it is. It's not, but when you make it that way, you clearly know that not everything is going to be a five.
Yeah,
Even
there's a
when you
time for
look
it.
among pizza, okay, hey, there is pizza that is a five, and there is pizza that is a one. Then it's
Oh
very
yeah.
easy. Next time you say, let's have pizza, well, where do you want to have pizza? Well, I want to have from this chain who will get into a motorcycle in 30 minutes or less. Oh, well, thank you very much. I'm absolutely interested on
Hmm.
that pizza. Okay. But then I don't need to feel bad.
No, and it is it is consciously choosing
Right.
what you're eating rather than just eating what's available. And unfortunately, I know many people don't really have that option. They just kind of, eat what's there or heaven forbid, live out of the vending machines. Um, af Over the years, that's one of the things I think both of us have recognized is that you can do that for a while.
Mhm.
You can operate that for a long while, but it takes a toll. I always use car analogies, and this is a very similar thing. If you use cheap gas and you use cheap products and cheap oil in your car, it'll run for a while, and then it's going to break down more often. It's going to have more issues, and it's not going to be as efficient. It's the same thing we're talking about here.
It's
Making
just
those
exactly the
conscious
same thing.
efforts. Yeah, making those conscious efforts, not getting overly nuts. You don't have to go overboard, but being aware, keeping track, making notes, and learning from what you're experiencing
Mhm.
will make you more productive because it allows you to avoid those potholes of fatigue and inactivity and distraction and brain fog and all that are under your control. There are many times they're not under your control, but this happens to be one of those few times that, yeah, you have a good shot of getting them under control.
And I will add two things that are technically not food, but has been a game changer for me.
Okay.
One is stretching.
Okay.
Okay. If I will have known how important stretching was, I will have started not 3 years ago, but 20. Okay. Because that has been a life changing for me. And I learned to stretch first at home, and then I now go once a week to a place where they stretch me. Okay, and it's been a life changing. Okay,
All
and
right.
being able to, when I get that 1:30 p.m. that you were describing, okay, and do certain stretches. Okay, it's been incredible. And the second thing has been a 15 minutes of quiet. Okay, so call it meditation, call it, doesn't matter what you call it. Okay. It's 15 minutes of quiet. Get music. Okay. There is tons of them that last 15 minutes. Okay. And just sit. I sit with a pen and paper. Okay. And slow down my raceness. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For 15 minutes. Okay. The goal of that is to let your RPMs go down. Okay. For me, tend to happen before lunch or after lunch, mostly before lunch. Okay. Because then I can go to lunch to a different mindset. Okay. And a much better place than if I do it after. Okay. But it's 15 minutes with the timer. Okay. And slow down because those two things in conjunction with the food has make a massive difference. And if you think on a machine, okay, get on your car, okay, and get in the highway and push the gas. There is a
Mm-hmm.
moment that that machine need to stop,
Yep.
otherwise, will break down. Same thing. What you are giving on those 15 minutes is that chance to stop.
Yeah. For me, it's the non-food related thing is allowing allowing myself to get distracted. And here's what I mean. There are points that will occur during the day where I will start hitting the wall on whatever I'm doing. I'll have I'll have momentum, I'll be making good progress, and all of a sudden I lose that momentum. It's not all of a sudden, it's usually over about after about 90 minutes or so. I'm like, I just I've lost the focus on this. I used to fight that a lot. Now I basically put a pin in that thing and go do whatever immediately feels like it urgently needs to be done at that moment. If it's empty the dishwasher, okay, I'm going to go empty the dishwasher. I could be in the middle of writing, a specification, but I have to give my brain that opportunity to take that sidestep, because if I don't, that's just going to continue to rattle there. You should go do this. You should
Oh,
go do
let me
this. You
then
should go
share
do
with
this.
you two things I learned. Get your watch and create two
Mm-hmm.
timers, a 60-second timer, so a minute,
Mm-hmm.
and a 3-minute timer.
Mm-hmm.
Why? When you think on a break, most people think 5 minutes. Okay, I'm going to
Yes.
take 5 minutes. Okay, that's a standard we all do. Your brain, in my experience, don't know the difference between 3 and 5. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
three in most of the times is enough. And if I found, okay, you know what, it's not enough. I really need, you know, a little bit more. I can do another three. That will be 6 minutes. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
instead of 10. Okay, and those make a significant difference because do exactly what you said. Okay, I'm going to do a minute. Okay, and it's the two things. Okay, it's a one click for me. Okay, and those are the first two. Okay, and it's 1 minute and 3 minutes, and that allows me to take those breaks. With this thing will ring in a minute and I
Mm-hmm.
will come back, or this thing will ring in 3 minutes. And a lot of times I do that 1 minute, and again, close your eyes for that 1 minute, okay? Just or do something like you just said, okay? But time it, not on 5 and 10.
Right.
Discover what you can do in a minute or three. You will be surprised.
That's a great approach to it. It's a great. I The closest I do to something like that is when I go make a cup of tea. I know it's 4 minutes to steep the tea, and it takes about a minute and a half for the pot to brew up. Um, I have gotten into the habit of making sure I don't take my tablet with me, my phone with me, nothing.
Mhm.
Everything else stays there, and it's down the steps, down and just stand there and wait for it. And sometimes I'll actually do a couple of stretches while I'm there, calf raises, whatever, just to keep my mind occupied. But you're right, that detour is usually enough. And here's the thing that I find happens most frequently. I will solve whatever problem I was just fighting with.
Right.
When I change that venue, the idea or a possible idea for how to solve the issue I was just struggling with will come to me right then, because I've kicked it out of the foreground into the background and allowed the background processing in my brain to just kind of fiddle with it, and pattern recognition kicks in and things like that. And all of a sudden, hey, here's an idea. Okay, so we haven't really clarified anything. We've dug more into what we do, but I think that's the best clarification we can provide for anybody
I
in this
think so
episode
too.
is
As we said at the beginning, we're not doctors. We are not, this is just what we do.
I think that's the clarification, and that's the important thing that people should take away from this is something you should be aware of. This is something you should look into, and you should take time to consider this being you is the most important tool you have to being productive. There isn't a piece of technology, there isn't a technique, there isn't a process or a book you can buy that is as important as you being able to function properly.
Mhm.
And taking the time to measure, understand, and adjust for that will make all the difference.
Yep. And with this, follow us where you like to listen to podcasts, like us or subscribe to us, and leave us a review. You can also interact with us in personalproductivity.club. I'm Augusto Pinaud and our Gelwicks, and see you next time from your favorite device. Thank you.